Hello? Is that better? Can you hear me now? Yeah, I'm going to leave the music on. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. No, this is me starting. I'm going to leave the music on, though, and that means that this won't have ads. The last time I did a live stream with licensed music, I have gotten 50-some copyright claims, which is different than a copyright strike. A copyright claim just means I can't have ads on it, which is fine. I don't care if I can have ads on this or not. And I'd rather listen to music I like than listening to Pretzel. Nothing wrong with Pretzel. I just want to listen to my own music is all. All right, so if the music's too loud, let me know. Last time it looked like the music was pretty low. Okay, so few questions here. Aniki, thanks for letting me know the mic is on. Brendan says, how are you doing today? I'm fine. My conception of time is really being messed with, but I'm fine. Let's Start says, will you be saving the video? Yep, I definitely will. There just won't be ads on it because I'm using copyrighted music. Rathan says, sir, please do it for Unity. I might in the future. It's definitely a possibility. Honestly, I'm testing out some ideas for the Godot Match 3 tutorial that I'm currently doing, and I might redo the Unity Match 3 tutorial if I ever get an infinite amount of time. But for now, I'm doing this specifically to test out some mechanics and project structure for the Godot Match 3. Yeah, I know, Aniki, we are. I had to remind myself when I woke up this morning. Today is Friday, April 10th. Today is Friday, April 10th. Yeah, I know. I hate kids having to deal with teleconferencing. Zoom is like the bane of my existence right now. I would much rather try to talk a kid through something on Hangouts than try to do teleconferencing with Zoom. All right, so this is a mock-up of what I'd like to have my Godot Match 3, or not Godot Match 3, my Godot 2048 look like by the time we're done. I don't know what this top UI is going to be used for, and I might just scrap it and just do score and high score. And then I don't know what this bottom was down here for me to have like a menu button and then power-ups, I thought, but I'm definitely not going to have enough time to do that in this. So I'm probably going to scrap these and this. So what we end up with might look something like this, but then we might also have like make that a nice amount of pixels. Let's make that say 200 by 100. And let's make it a nicer color too. Is that the white that this comes with? All right, cool. Let's actually make it a little taller. Let's go 300, or nope, sorry. Go, nope, way too tall. Roy Meredith says, can you do a Unity version, please? Maybe, in the future, maybe. I know that I saw that there was a little bit of discussion before I came in about whether Unity was better or Godot was better, and in my opinion, they're equal. I mean, there are reasons that you would want to do a project in Godot over Unity, just as there are reasons you might want to do a project in Unity over Godot. It's one of those things where, like, I don't know, when I was a kid, I never understood why people were taking sides of like Nintendo versus Sega as if they were like their NFL teams or something. Like, they're both good. More than one thing can be good at a time. Godot is better for certain things or for certain kinds of projects, whereas Unity is better for other things or other kinds of projects. So, I mean, it's 6-1. Oh, no, now, lol, okay. Okay, Michael asks, from where did I learn the Zelda project? I honestly just was teaching myself as I went. That's why there's so many weird errors in that project and why my original structure isn't so great. So I just kind of was teaching myself as I went. It's a matter of like incremental gains. You learn a little bit and then a little bit and a little bit. Game Endeavor says, howdy, howdy. Hey there, Game Endeavor. How are you? Jose Vicente says, how did I create the color palette? So let's talk about that really quickly here. I don't know if I've brought this up on anything before, but oh yeah, I'm going to do a shameless plug here too. So I have a website, and if you want to find the assets I'm using here, you can go to the website under tutorials. The Godot bound is an upcoming tutorial. I've already recorded a few videos for it, but I haven't edited them yet. Here's the Unity cheat sheet and the Unity functions and hotkeys from a Unity series I just finished. Here's the modified assets for the Zelda-like series. And then here, make a puzzle game like 2048 and Godot with GDScript. Here's where you can find the assets. And that's at taftcreates.com/tutorials.html. Aniki says, to save time, I have a core project that has scenes for title screen, game options menu, and in the game scene, I can import a button that goes to the main menu. Yeah, Chris Bradfield, Kids Can Code, he does the same thing. In fact, he has a version that you can download. And then Jose, this isn't where, like, the color palette's in there, but where I got the color palette, I didn't make it, is from a website called LowSpec. And LowSpec has a palette list. And honestly, I just look through the palettes to see which one I like. If you look for like web palettes and stuff, those are usually 4 or 5 colors. Whereas if you're doing something for a game, you want closer to 16 to 36 colors. And so the one I'm using here is Pear, which is created by Pineapple on Pizza. This is pretty good. Brendan says, so is the Unity series finished? No, I don't think that will ever be finished, to be honest. And I don't know if that discourages you or not, but it's one of those things where I'm going to keep coming back to it and adding more features and refactoring the code and all that stuff. What are you working? So, all right. What I'm working on here is I'm setting up a mock-up just so that I can have something I can look at that looks the way I want it to. I'm going to make these backgrounds kind of light gray. Is that better? Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I'm just going to add some text on top. And this text is going to look different in the game because the fonts I have are different. So we'll do score. Bring that down a little bit. 16 point. Okay. Put this right here. Make it white. And let's duplicate that. This is going to be best. Obviously that can't be white. So for both of them, let's change their color to something nice and dark. That's better. Okay. All right, so that's kind of what I'm aiming for here by the end of the series. What are the Xiaoko says, what are the advantages does Godot have in front of Unity or Unreal Engine? Godot's open source. There's no situation where you'd have to make any payment for using it. Godot is rigidly node-based. So if you're generally focused on solid programming, following the concepts of solid programming, Godot forces you to do that because of the way it's structured. It's kind of really nice. Whereas like Unity's rickety. I love Unity, don't get me wrong. I think we wouldn't have Unreal Engine with its generous its generous licensing fee if it weren't for Unity, but Unity hasn't changed the core engine at all, at least as far as I can tell, in about 8 years. Instead, they keep adding stuff onto it, which makes the whole thing feel, to me, anyway, a bit rickety. So, yeah. Any asks, do I have a Trello hacking code one similar to keep track of your tasks so you know the goals? Good question. That's definitely something I always struggle with. So let's make a really quick Trello list here. So the last Trello board I had open was school tasks. I'm gonna make a new board. Anybody can see it. Do that. No team. And then we'll call this Godot 2048. All right, cool. So let's make a few lists here. We'll do needed, wanted, and maybe question mark. And then to the needed, we need to have a grid. And there's going to be some other things inside that grid. So that could maybe even be its own list. We want to have pieces from 2 to the 16th. Is it 16th? Yeah, 2 to the 16th. We need to have a swipe mechanic. That only works on the bottom of the screen, so that way we can have a button on top and the swipe won't be misread. Nobody special asks what size. I just always do 32x. Let's see, what else do we need? So in the grid, let's actually make this its own list. So move the grid stuff over here, and let's make a 4x4 array. That's not how you spell array. We need to change from pixel to grid coordinates and vice versa. We need to make a new, actually let's check to see if there is a blank space. We need to move pieces left, right, up, and down, and combine if necessary. What else do we need to do in the grid? I'm going to leave that for now, and then let's just get rid of this from here. I want to edit it. Archive it. Okay. So Julio says you use Trello. I do. I'm trying to get better at using Trello to help people work on stuff. So, okay. Currently I've got it public. How do I get the link to it? That's something I've never done. Anybody in chat know how to create the link for my Trello board here? Name. Okay, I'm going to leave that for now. So let's see. What else? Swipe mechanic that only works on the bottom of the screen. Pieces from 2 to the 16th. All right, so this I think is a pretty good mock-up. This is what I'm going for. I've already broken down all of the pieces into their individual files, and I have the background as a file, and I have the grid backgrounds and all that as a file as well. So let's move to Godot here. I'm using 3.2.1. I think I have a link to it in the description down below. This is going to be a new project. This is going to be 2048. And I want this to be in... Yeah, that's fine. I know I'm touching my face, but I like just washed my hands before this began, and it's very hard for me not to touch my face, so don't judge me, guys. All right, so let's make a 2D scene. Let's call this one main. And let's actually make our folder hierarchy here too. So we'll do assets and source. And we'll save this main into source. And then in my assets here, okay. Just gonna grab all of these, move them in here. See that? Nope. Okay, I'm gonna have to move them back. So I want all of these to go there. Okay. Yui? Sorry if I mispronounced that. Says to copy your Trello board, or to obtain a link for your Trello board, open the board's menu, then click more and copy a link to your board. Link to a board from the board's menu. Okay. That's not the board's menu. I am being very much a boomer here. That changes the name of it. Aha, show menu. Okay. It was there the whole time. Then click more. And click more. Okay, there we go. More. There we go. Link to this board. All right, I'm going to put this in the YouTube. So, edit. All right, here we go. Thank you for that. Yui? Again, sorry. I'm bad at pronouncing names that aren't my own tongue. Okay, so let's set up our project here. First thing I'm going to do is grab the background that isn't hideous. It's 576 by 1024, so that's going to be our project size. And we'll leave our test width as that. Orientation is portrait, 2D, keep. All right, cool. Let's add a, no, not a button. Texture rect. And this is gonna have this texture. Full rect. All right, cool. Now I'm going to add the board background as a sprite. My ribs and repair this broken heart. I have it here somewhere. There's the tile background. Do I not have it? Okay, well, I'll have to export it then. So I want to export just this. So it's one thing about Affinity is when you export just a selection, even though this is 512 by 512, it thinks it's 512 by 513. So I'm gonna export this as grid background. And then let's grab grid background. There it is. With these revisions and gaps in history. Yeah, I absolutely can, Aniki. In fact, that's something I'm going to do. So Aniki asks, can you steal the grid? Essentially, he's asking, can I not go over something I've covered before in another video so that I can instead focus on good stuff? And except he asked it in a much nicer way. And yes, I absolutely can do that. Okay, so half of 576 is 288. And then let's put this just at 720. Okay, that's good. Now, let's add a child node. And this doesn't have to be a node 2D, but I'm going to make it a node 2D anyway, just in case. I'm going to call this grid. And let's add a script to it. So, yep. All right, now let's create some functions. So the grid here, and I'm actually gonna follow my own advice and like do comments and stuff that I almost never do. So the grid script functions to only control functions of the grid. These functions are creating pieces, finding blank spaces, removing pieces. I think the grid should probably be responsible for deleting pieces as well. Moving and deleting slash, yeah, deleting slash replacing pieces. It's playing the same song again. Okay, and then we'll have another script specifically for control, and this is something I wanted to do in the match 3. And again, I'm going to use a node 2D. I don't have to use a node 2D, but I'm just going to call this touch control. I'm going to make another one for keyboard control for debug purposes. And I know these don't have to be node 2Ds. There's a little bit of overhead that comes with it, but since I'm only doing a few, I think it should be okay. Okay, so touch control and keyboard control are both going to emit signals. I'm going to add a script to both of them. So touch control is going to emit signals for left, right, up, and down. Move left. Actually, it's going to be simpler if I just do move and then pass in a vector value. So these will both have a signal to move. And then these signals will be sent from here to the grid. Say it ain't so low. And this is going to take in a vector 2. So call this direction vector 2. So that way we don't have to have different signals for move left, move right, move up, and move down. Darwin says, I find Godot really hard to learn. Hi. Hello there. I think it depends on what your experience is, because Godot functions so much differently from Unity. If you're used to the way that Unity does things, it can be hard to get a hold of how to do things with Godot, because instead of having prefabs, you have scenes and all kinds of stuff. But I actually think Godot's not too bad. I especially love the signals. All right, so we got our grid. So let's follow Anykey's advice and let's steal some stuff from other projects I've worked on. So I'm going to open another version of Godot here. And let's take a look at my YouTube Match 3. So there's like, I don't know, a million parts to the YouTube Match 3 series. So you can certainly check that out. But one of the big issues I'm having right now is I made this project when I was incredibly new to Godot. So the grid script is massive. It is way bigger than it needs to be. And so I've been trying to refactor it and have everything, start moving stuff away from the grid into separate components. But like, holy cow, look at this. So what I want to do here is I'm going to grab the make 2D array function. Let's put that in here. And you can tell this is old code because it's from way back when I couldn't not put semicolons at the end of lines. And now I have no problem putting semicolons at the end of lines. So the width is a constant, but I'm going to define it here anyway. There's a few comments I see. I'll get to that in a second. So I'm going to define width as 4. Okay, and now I also want to have a and then so this shouldn't be pieces, this should be like board. Okay. Cool. Now, what else do I need to steal? These two functions. Again, old code. It's going to bug me if I don't get rid of those. It's also going to bug me that I'm using 2 arguments when I can just use 1. So I'm going to call this grid to pixel, so grid position of type vector 2. And then new x equals, and then return, yeah, vector 2 new x new y. And then I need to know the x start, y start, and the offset. The x start is, I'm gonna guess, since say it's 96. And then I'm going to say the Y start is, I'm just guessing here. I'm going to go back and actually find it. And the offset I think is 64. All right. Let's make sure the offset is right. Nope, it's 1. Well, I'll make them smaller. Unless, I don't need to make them smaller here, I don't think. 1, 2, yeah, I don't need to make them smaller. So the offset's going to be 128. Okay, taking a look at chat here really quickly. Aniki says Godot uses nested prefabs is how yeah, that's a good way to think of it. That whole nested prefab system that Unity has, conspiracy theory here, I think might be a reaction to Godot, but that's just a conspiracy theory. I have no proof. I do not know how to say that name. That isn't Cyrillic. Godot hard if compared from popular engines, but Godot is better. Yeah, it's just a different mindset. So it's not like comparing Unreal and Unity, which are a bit closer, I think, than Unreal or Unity are to Godot. It's not first, or holy cow, I'm bad at pronouncing names today. Bjit says it's not first. I thought Godot was hard as I'm from a Unity background, but later I found it's very nice and easy to use. You just need to try to make simple game from a tutorial, then you will be good. Python-like, yep. It is very Python-like. The script it's not Python. But it's a Python. It's not even Python derivative. Technically, it's a C++ derivative, but it's very similar to Python 3. If you know how to use Python 3 and you don't know how to do something, if you just use your best like Pythonic guess, you'll usually get stuff. Codes Otaku says, I feel like Godot's UI is buggy. I haven't experienced that. Aniki says, staying straight to find constants, this ain't Vegas. There's no room for magic numbers here. Yeah. Okay. So column needs to be grid position.x, and row needs to be grid position.y, and then let's make this pixel position. Vector 2, and then we'll do pixel position.x. Oh, I did that wrong. This needs to be pixel position.x. There we go. Okay, cool. Now, all right, so we've got those. We'll get I deserve. So this is a good one to bring over too. Again, old code. Come true. So grid position is going to be a vector 2. Won't come true. All right, cool. So let's check in on my Trello board here. Make a 4x4 array. Make a done list. Make a 4x4 array. Change coordinates. Check to see if there's a blank space. So we'll do. Oh, holy cow. Caesar, thank you very much. Very appreciated, man. So let's say function is blank space. This isn't going to take any arguments, and we're just going to go for I in width if, called it board, I think. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, person whose name is in Cyrillic. Caesar Davis gave a $1 super chat, so thank you very much, Caesar. Okay, so blank space. Done. With pieces left, right, up, and down if necessary. So here's the thing about 2048 that I think is interesting. I'm pretty sure I can just find like an online version of 2040, not 2047. Yeah, okay, so this uses the arrow keys. So if you just use the arrow key, one of the things that's interesting is if I push the right arrow, it should combine the two twos, which means it needs to, if I'm moving things right, this way, yeah, if I'm moving things this way, then I need to check the row that's farthest right, and then see if that can move. And if it can't move, keep it where it is. Then check the next row and see if this can move. And it can move if the space next to it is empty, or if the space next to it is the same value as it. And if the space next to it is the same value, then it'll combine, both pieces will be destroyed and they'll create a new piece. So, that's a neat effect I didn't realize was there. When it does the score, it kind of adds to it. Okay, cool. I'm going to play this if I keep going. All right. So when we move things to the left, we want to start with the last row. Well, anything in the last row can just stay where it is. And then the next row over is going to check the row past that. So we won't do anything to the last row. Instead, we'll do something with row 2. So this is row 0, row 1, column 0, column 1, column 2. And then okay. So I'm going to create a function here. Move all pieces, and then we're going to need a direction that's a vector 2. I'll throw a pass in here at the moment, and then these are going to both call move all pieces direction. Okay. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of that. So I could use a ton of if-else statements, but that's not going to be the best way to do it. I want to do it in an easier way. Because I could just check to see if it's vector2 dot right, and if it's vector2 dot right, then do this. If it's vector2 dot left, then do this. If it's vector2 dot up, do this. Vector2 dot down, do that. But there has to be an easier way. All right, I'm going to save this for a second, and then let's start making the pieces. So I'm going to make a new 2D scene. I'm going to call this piece. This is going to have a sprite. And by default, it's going to be here. Any key says, as a general rule, when learning a new engine, remake a game you've done before into the new engine. I've done this game before, but from a version I didn't phaser. I've done this game before too, but I don't want to look back at my old code just yet. But yeah. All right. So my default texture is going to be 2. But if I want to define the textures, save this as the piece scene. Let's make a new script. So let's have an integer value. So value of type integer. I forgot how to do an export here. So is that it? Okay, that must be it. All right. Okay, sorry. All right, so we have the integer. And let's also make a next value. This probably isn't the best way to do it. So each piece is going to keep track of what its current value is and what the next value is. And let's actually just clear this out. So it's going to check to see if the value of a piece is the same as the value next to it. And if it is, both pieces get destroyed and whatever the piece's next value is gets created there. And that's going to be controlled by the grid so that the pieces themselves don't double it up. So this means I'm going to have 16 piece scenes though. I could, no, I'm not going to do it that way. There's a cleaner way to do it, but I'm not going to do it the cleaner way because I already made all this art and I don't want to, because otherwise I'm going to have to define the colors and change the colors because I want it to be nice and colorful. So I could just have the text value be the value of the piece and then create a new piece with a higher value, but then also sample a color, if that makes sense what I just said. But I don't want to do that, and I don't think it's going to be that bad to do it the way I'm going to do it. Make a new folder, and I'm going to call this pieces, and get new inherited scene from piece. I'm going to call this 2. Gets the 2 color, 2 value. Actually gonna not call this 2, I'm gonna call it 2 piece. I haven't looked at chat in a minute here, so bear with me, guys. Oh. This is going to get unwieldy when I start getting past 512. Any Key says that's how I did it, but I also use my ugly art. One piece, apply a color, and change the text label. Super expandable, but kind of visually not awesome. Yeah, I agree. It would be cleaner to have one piece value that you're changing the text on and then sampling the color from an array of colors. It doesn't look good that way though. So I'm gonna go with the way that I think looks good, but is maybe a little nastier. Coding gods, don't yell at me. All right, so let's do another piece. This one is gonna be 32. Yeah, see, it's already getting unwieldy, my naming structure. I have to change it. Value 32. This is just going to be 64 piece. It's like that rule in English where when you're listing a number below a certain amount, you need to write out the number, and if it's above a certain amount, you need to just use the number. Some of my teachers told me it was like 50. If it was below 50, you write out the number. If it's 50 or above, then you use the number itself. And then I had another teacher later in high school who told me it was 100. If it's below 100, you write out the number. I never liked that. Any key says the amount is 100. Okay, good to know. I'll go back and... Is it Bergman? Is that the name of my middle school English teacher? I think it was Mr. Bergman. I'll have to go back and yell at Mr. Bergman about it. Wait, this needs to be 128 piece. Okay, we'll save that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm almost halfway here. Ah, no. Fitzo Harley asks, is that Pear 36 color palette? It is. And Aniki says it's pineapple on pizza. That's the username who made the Pear 36 palette on low spec, is pineapple on pizza. Which I actually enjoy. I know that makes me a pariah in some people's eyes, but... So this is going to be the 2048. Did I remember to do the last one? Nope. Okay. And then 2048. Okay. And then this is going to be 4096. And 8192. When I made these pieces, I made the colors I don't like, the high value colors. That way I'm always seeing the colors I do like. So 16384 piece. That's why all the early pieces are all green and blue, because those are my colors. Okay, and then new inherited scene. $32,768. Oh, no, new inherited scene. And this is the last one. The last possible piece. Unless you mess around with it. Alright, so now save all of these scenes. I haven't looked at chat in a minute, so give me a minute and I'll take a look. Okay, so now did I give them all the correct values? 4096, 8192, 16384, 32768, 65536, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, Okay, cool. Now they each need to know what the next piece is so they can create it. And again, this is why it's not the best way. Instead of having 16 different pieces, I could have just had a piece. But then I wouldn't have these nice colors. So right now I'm just assigning the value of the pack scene of the next scene. So like whatever the next value is. So 256 knows its next value is 512. Oh, duh. Why isn't that going in there? They're all inheriting from the same thing. Younger days. 2048 gets 4096. 4096 gets 8192. 8192 gets 16384. 16384 gets 32,000 something. 32,000 something gets 65,000 something. 6536 gets nothing. Let's save all these scenes here. Sweet. Okay, now I'm gonna leave the piece scene open, but I'm gonna close all of these. Yeah, Aniki says he used a grayscale base image and applied a tint over the texture. The base color was right to the RGB color in the array, and the shadow was right relative to that, but it may not match the palette exactly. So if you started with just a single piece, so like if I just had a tile that looked like this but with no number on it, and instead of being green, I'd have white as the main value and then a darker gray here, and then a darkest gray as the outline. That way I could apply a tint to it by using the sprite's modulate property under visibility. And by applying a tint to the modulate property, since the sprite is white, I'm essentially tinting the whole thing. And then I could just use an array of colors. The problem with using that with the kind of art style I'm going for is the darker colors are actually hue shifted. They're not straight they're not a straight value change of the same hue. The hue is actually being changed. So the hue and the saturation, I think, are being changed. So it wouldn't give exactly the same, but it would be a cleaner way to do it. I agree. Okay. So back to main here. Now the grid needs to know what the 2-piece and the 4-piece are, because those are the two that it could generate. So export var, call it 2-piece. Type packed scene. Okay. All right, now back to my grid script. So, I want to generate pieces. So let's make a function to do that. I don't think this takes in any arguments. What I do want to do though is check to see if there's a blank space. If else print no more room. Okay. So now if I I'm going to define this as my main scene. All right, cool. So there's plenty of space. I didn't get that no space thing. Any key says give each piece an int property of value and then check the colliding pieces. If they match, you have a match, and then destroy the two pieces and make a new tile with a value that is the previous value to the exponent of 2. And then you'd have some sort of like setup method in it as well that would change the label on it. And then the setup method would also choose a, like whatever the power was, you can use that to choose what color in the array of colors you choose. Yes. Okay. So, cool. Oh, I need to find out what that x start, y start, and x start and y start are. So, this grid, nope, board background. It's 512, 576. 576 minus 512 is 64, so it's 32 plus 64, so it is 96 as the x start. Cool. Let's see, it's 512 to the bottom. Right, it's 512 to the bottom, and then half of 512 is, or not half of 512. 512 minus 64 is 52, 448. Wait, no, I did that wrong. 720 plus 256 is, I'm gonna have to bring up my calculator. See, math teacher can't do math anymore. What good am I? 64. Nope. So 912 should be the y start. Bitso says a cool thing you can do is for game feel is make it stretch and squash when you match the number. Yep, there's a few things I want to do for game feel, and that's definitely one of them. Okay. Now, when I want to have just like a background grid piece here as well. Which is just going to have a sprite. And this will serve for a couple things. Cool. And then in my grid, let's make a reference to the background piece. And then temp equals wait, what? Oh. Okay. And let's, in the ready function, generate background. Take up a half of a home. I don't have to instance these as actual like scenes. I could instead just add them as nodes. Cool. All right, now when I'm generating a new piece, so if is blank space, then I want to actually, if I look back at that, start this. Okay. All right, so they're starting with 2 pieces. And it looks like there's some kind of weighting going on between whether it's a 2 or a 4 that they generate. Okay, so now we're gonna pick a random number. So first I'm gonna say var this is made equals 0, and then while this is made is less than 2, less than 1, and then I want to choose a random x and y value. Looks like any key says don't use a calculator. You won't have one with you when you need it every time. You're absolutely right. I should have broken out my paper. I've got some paper at my desk here. I should have done that. But so Harley says, yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I'm with you, dude. I'm gonna do something very, very similar to that. I thank you very much, Bitso, for adding that that tip. I appreciate it. So we're gonna pick a random spot. So we're gonna say var x position equals integer value of random. Is it rand range? Of 0, 4. Do I want to do it as a floor as well? Might as well. Go into distraction-free mode here. That's probably unnecessary, but I'm gonna do it anyway. We'll call this Y position. Yeah. And then I want to do if board X position, Y position equals null. Var temp equals, I'm just going to use the 2 scene for now. And then child temp top position equals grid to pixel vector to Y position, and then I'm going to pieces made plus equals 1. And then I also need to assign this to the grid. So now board X position, Y position equal to temp. Okay. Let's see how this, oh yeah, and I want to randomize it before we start. What does it matter? Sweet. So, I think I know what's wrong. Yep. Sweet. So let's all right, so far so good. So now let's make it randomly do a 2 or a 4. So rather than having that code be inside here for generate new piece, I'm going to create a new function to decide if it should be a 2 or a 4. Function is 2 or 4. This is not a great name for a function, but that's what we're going with. Any key? No, you are absolutely not. I've had many a freak out just to find out I never called the function I wrote. Okay, so is 2 or 4. So this is going to choose a random number. So var temp is rand range. Let's go from 0 to 100. So we can use percentages. If temp less than or equal to 75, return 2 piece. Yeah. Else, return 4 piece. And then now, this will be not 2 piece, but it's 2 or 4. Okay. Sweet. It's so Harley. No, feel free, dude. That's why it's here. Information should be free. I think it's slightly less likely to get a 4 piece, and I think also you don't ever get 2 4s, but I'm gonna change this from being a magic number here. So we'll call this var, no, we'll make this an export. For piece chance integer. And then this is going to be minus 4 piece chance. Then the grid, I'm going to set the 4 piece chance relatively high, let's say 50, and I should see about a 50-50 split. Okay. And then if I set it low, let's go with 10, I should almost never see a 4 piece. Cool. I'm just going to keep going to make sure that there can be a 4 piece. Ten is definitely too low. There we go. Okay, cool. I saw one. All right. Only I have addiction to polishing the game. That's not a bad thing to want to do, man. Polish is what sells games. Polish is all, or not all, but polish is a big part of what consumers focus on when they look at games. Okay, so let's go back to my Trello board here. So pieces from 2 to 2 to the 16th, swipe mechanic. Okay. So now I need to move the pieces next. Bitso, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, so long as you don't let your polish get too out of control. What I've found is that if there's a project that I don't want to work on, like I find myself dreading opening it up to look at it, if I add any key, you're right, I could have done that, and then I could have looked at, statistically, it should end up being what I want it to be, but you're fine. Anyway, if you add a little bit of polish when you're working, it can make it feel better to work on the project, I think, in my opinion. I'm going to make this 20%. Okay, so now the movement, the one that I've been not wanting to come back to because it made my head hurt a little bit. Okay, so this generate new piece is going to need to be made a bit more flexible too, but we'll come back to that. All right, so move all pieces. I'm going to start by doing it the bad way and then see if I can think of a better way. So let's say match direction. I forget how to use a match statement. Let's do. I'm used to doing a switch, and I know you have to do match in here. And I don't want to do if else because I don't like that. Okay, there we go. Remove case, remove any breaks. Okay, I like that they have this. Nice. All right, so match direction. Let's do vector 2 dot up. Down. And then instead of a default, it's a single underscore case. Did I read that right? Remove any breaks if you, oh. You can use a continue for a fall through. So I should be using continue here. And no breaks. Make it work, then make it better. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. The problem is, like, I don't know, when you're doing tutorials like this, people who are new to programming tend to think that a script is like a magic spell. Because I'll have students in class all the time come up to me and be like, well, I wrote everything down correctly in the script, but it's not working. And it's like, well, but dude, it's not a magic spell. You gotta actually understand what's going on. Okay, so if it's up, I want to find for I in height -1. Let's do, all right. So let's look at an example here. Did I misspell height? I did, thank you. Bitso says the Match 3 tutorial gave me a lot of possibilities to different games using a grid system. Yeah, once you understand how to create a two-dimensional grid, it can apply to a bunch more than that. It can apply to even something like Binding of Isaac, if you wanted to make a grid dungeon system like they do. And then within the room, you can use a grid system to populate it with obstacles / enemies. Anyway, okay, so what was I looking at? Okay, So 0, 1, 2, 3. So from height -1, or actually this should be height -2. So this piece needs to check to see, so this is at 2, it needs to check all the places above it. So looking for empty spots or spots that have the same value. So actually, let's do this for I in width, because I want to do this to every column, and then for j in height -2. So I want to cache the value of the piece. So I'm going to do if is not null. And I'm just going to store a temporary value. We'll do all of this will be part of that, which means I don't need this here. I can instead declare it here. Then okay, well, whatever then. Okay, I haven't looked at chat in a minute here. Height and length are ones that I misspelled. Yeah, I think it's the GH and then TH. I don't know. And then GTH, I don't know. Something about that key combination makes it easy to misspell. Okay, so I want to check to see so if board I, j plus k, so k is the height minus j. So like if the height is 2, if we're starting at 2, and the height is 4, 4 minus 2 is 2. So this needs to be height -1 minus j. I don't want to have to break down and look at my old code for how I did this before, but I also don't want to have you guys just watch me struggle with figuring out how I've done this in the past. So 3 minus, so if we're starting at the second row, 4 minus 1, which is 3, 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, I'm going to break down and look at some of my old code here. Leading is one thing, but getting's another. So this is a super old version of this project. So I want to look at my grid script in here. The grid script in here isn't great, but it's less than 400 lines, which is good. And then I also have all the control stuff in here. Grid pixel, pixel grid, touch input, swipe angle, calculate direction, move right. Okay, so I had them separated into specific... Oh, that makes sense though. This could just be move though, and then with a direction. And look, I even commented all my code out. Grab all of this. I honestly can't believe I commented all that code. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, instead of all of this, I'm going to move all pieces, and then we're gonna have another function to move just a piece. And then we're going to need to know a piece and a direction. So the piece is going to be a vector 2 because it's just a reference to which piece in the board. Same thing with the direction. And then now I'm going to paste in that code that I just copied from my previous version of this project. Come on now. There we go. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is store the piece. So we're going to do this piece equals board. And then what did I do next? Store the value of the next column. I'm going to call it next space instead. So we'll call this var next space is equal to board piece.x plus direction.x piece.y plus direction.y. This way I'm making it extendable so we can just have the one method. Oh, but it's not storing the actual piece. It's storing just what the next space is. So the next space then is going to be piece plus direction. And then now the value of that piece. And then iterate through the columns looking for the end of the board or a non-empty space. That's actually a smart way to do it. So how did I do that though? So then grab this for loop here. Okay. For I in range, so I'm doing this through the width because this was specifically for move right. So what I want to do instead I don't want to have to break this down into the 4 directions again, just like I did before. Trying to think of a better way to do this here. I know this is riveting content here. So we're going from next X to width, but I changed that to be the next space. I could add an if-else statement. It's the end of the board, and that spot is null. So if I equals width minus 1, and all pieces I row. So this isn't all pieces anymore, it's board. Then why did I do that? So I'm gonna change this a little bit here. And then this is going to be for I in range. Next space dot X. And then this isn't going to be row. This is going to be piece dot Y. And I don't have this move function declared yet. Piece dot Y. Board. Okay, and then row is going to be and then value I never declared. So okay. This is riveting, I know. Okay, so let's go through what's actually happening in here. So right now I have this as move piece, but I don't want to have to break this down into if and else if statements for what the thing is. It would be better to use the match again here, but doesn't matter. So move piece, this is to move one single piece. And then I guess first thing I could do is check to see if, so when we're actually moving right in this case, I'm gonna go for I in width, for J in height. If board I J is not null, then I want to move piece, and I want to use vector 2 ij as the piece itself, and then vector 2 dot right as the direction. And then that'll call this. And then when we're checking for the direction, it would be way better to use a match statement, but so let's just do that. So match direction, and then this whole thing just becomes vector 2 dot right. And then all of this needs to be re-indented another level. Okay. So match direction, vector 2 dot right. For I in range, next space dot x width. So if it's the end of the board and that spot is null, if I is equal to width minus 1, meaning the end of the board, and it's null, then I'm going to move the piece there. If the spot is full, then move it to one before it. So if board piece dot y is, so if it's not null and the value isn't equal to our value, this logic can be made simpler. So, okay, so I've got, if it's the end of the board and the space is null, I'm going to move the piece there. If the spot is full, meaning the value isn't null, and its value isn't the same as ours, the spot is full and the value isn't the same, then move one before it. And then here, this is, the spot is full and the value is the same as the piece. Destroy both, gain new one of value, make a new one from the next value. Okay. Okay, so this wouldn't be too nasty if I did this for each direction. And I'm not going to make my life any better by sitting here and like pondering it for a million years. So, okay, so if we're moving all pieces with the direction, and I've got my keyboard control move all pieces. So I'm gonna go in my keyboard control here. I'm actually gonna declare my project settings. I should have done this at the beginning. I'm gonna do left, right, up, down. Let's declare these as the arrow keys. And then the last one. And then in the process function, if what dot is action just pressed, emit signal down. And then I'm just gonna copy and paste this. Gaudy apartment complex. Stranger with your door key. Just visiting. I was the one worth leaving. Let me know if my voice is super annoying when I sing along anyway. Hopefully my voice isn't annoying normally. If it is, I don't know why you're here. Okay, so now I need to actually have it give the direction too. So down, 2 dot down, 2 dot up, 2 dot left, vector 2 dot right. Okay, did not mean to do that. All right, now maybe this will work. Okay, cool. Debugger. Oh, can't emit non-existing. Oh, Mr. Taft. The signals just move. That way I didn't have to make 4 different signals. That makes sense. You're with your door key, explaining I'm just visiting. Okay, I didn't make the piece function, or the move in the piece function. So I'm gonna add a tween node here, following Blitzo's suggestion. And I'm gonna rename this to be move tween. And I'm gonna make a reference to it in the script. So this is in the piece scene. Okay, and then we'll make a move function. And then when I'm calling the move function from my grid script, how am I moving it? Yep, I'm using a vector. So this is going to require a vector. And then we're going to do tween dot in. No, hey. Move tween dot turbulate property. The property or the object is myself. The property is position. The initial value is the position. The final value is the new position. The duration, make that a variable. No, I'll make it a magic number. So we'll do 0.3. We'll do bounce. We'll do out. Cool. And then move tween dot, I think it's start. Asterisks in for the vowels. .127 invalid get index base 4. Oh, I see. So I only want to do all of this if so I protected against that originally by if it's right, I'm going from I in width -1. Cool. All right. So that worked. Now I just need to have this repeat for the other directions. So let's see what I can get rid of in here. So first and foremost, we're moving and then setting. So we're doing that here. Oh, that's why. That makes sense now. So this is board piece.x, piece.y, That's why it did that. Okay, that makes more sense. So we're moving and then changing the value. So we're doing that here, here. So we might as well have a separate function for it. So call this function move and set board value. And this needs to know the current position, which is a vector 2. And it needs to know the new position, which is a vector 2 as well. And then, so what we'll do, I'm just gonna grab these 3 lines. And then, so instead of being piece.x, this is gonna be current position.x. Actually, let's just make it current. Let's just make it current and new. Or, what do you call desired? So we'll do current.x, current.y. And then we're gonna make this desired and current.y. Let's actually just make it both desired. That makes more sense. And then, oh, it also needs to know, well, let's do it this way then. Let's not do that there. Instead, let's move it. So we're going to move board current.x, current.y. We'll move it, and then we'll set the position null. Well, I guess we still have to have some sort of cache reference though. So var temp equals and then this can just be temp. And then this can be desired.x, desired.y equals temp. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to use move and set board value instead of these 3 lines. And then we're going to move it current, which is, wait, what did I just get rid of? Piece.x, piece.y. Okay. Board value. Oh, I can just use piece. I don't even need to cast it as vector 2. And then for the desired position, hey, I already did that. No, I didn't. Okay. So it's going to be vector 2 width -1 piece.y. Okay, let's see if I broke it. Sweet. All right, now if this spot is full and the value isn't the same, then move to one before it. So move and set board value piece, vector 2, I minus 1, piece.y. Okay. And then I wonder what the start timer was for. I don't need it. Why am I moving this piece? The start timer must be to destroy it. So let's make a function. So in the piece function here, I'm going to do function. Might as well call it start timer. And then in the piece scene itself, let's add a timer. Actually, no, let's not do that. Let's call this like remove. And then what I want to do for now is just key free. So back to my grid script. Before I set it to null, remove, then I'm going to set it to null. I don't need to move anything or start a timer. And now I can create a new piece in a specific position. Oh, but this remove, that's why there's a timer for it. So let me store that value then. Okay. And then that way I don't need to worry about this. This is just going to be temp.instance. I also want to remove the other one though. So let's make a new function for this. And this is just gonna take a position, just a vector, no, not position, piece, which is a vector 2. And then we're going to okay, so this is going to remove and clear. So now I want to remove and clear 2 pieces. So I want to remove and clear piece. I want to remove and clear vector 2 I piece.y. Okay. So this is way cleaner. And let's do the other vectors now, and let's see how much I've broken. So we'll do left eye all caps. Up. There we go. Okay, so now if we do the left, how did I do this in the other version? So this should be 0. And this should also be 0. Should be +1. Okay. Okay, so it's receiving. Oh, it's because I didn't do the left part up here. Okay. So for I in range with -1, so that means we're going to start at 3. -1 is going to be too far, so it'll stop at 0, and we're going to go by -1s. So that means we're going to subtract every time. Actually, no. This should still be with -1, I think. So let's try this now. Nope, that's the peace scene. Okay. All right, so I think I had it right the first time. So we want to go through the range from 3 over. Nope, peace scene again. Okay. Which part did it freak out on? Index base 4. This piece dot value. Okay, so there's no 4. Oh. That's why. God. Mr. Taft. Okay, that looks okay. There's no extra pieces though, so we could have all kinds of issues. So now let's do the up and down. So for down, we want to go height -1. So this, okay. So this is gonna cut this from here. I'm gonna put it here. And this is just gonna be for eye and width, or yeah, width. And this is gonna be height -1, 2 -1, counting by -1s. And then the vector 2 is gonna be down. And then this one, nope. So we're gonna do, yep, and then this is gonna go from -1, yep, and then this is gonna be vector 2 dot up. All right, let's test this out. Cool. Okay, so what am I doing wrong here? So first of all, I'm not doing anything with up and down, which is why I wasn't doing anything with up and down. That makes sense. And then did I not call it next piece? I called it next value, that's why. Okay, let's try this again now. Okay, I want to keep replaying until I get one where they would merge. Here we go. Sweet. That worked. All right, now let's do the other directions here. So we've got right and left. Let's do up and down. Okay, so for up, we're gonna do something similar to right. This is nasty. And then for down, we're going to do something similar to left. Okay, so let's look at up here. How long is this now? Okay, I want to try and get this not very much longer than it is right now, because I think I've got most of the stuff that needs to be in here. All right, so for up, we're going to go eye in range. So we want to call this okay, so we'll leave this as next space dot y and then height. And then I would be equal to height -1. So this should be piece.x, y, or I. And this should be piece.x, height -1. All right, let's try this Okay. So it tried to do remove and clear.
So here's a song about the best day that I've ever had.
Oh, because I didn't finish it, that's why. Okay. Okay, let's try that. How did it get there then? Because it's saying that it can't remove it because it has a base of null. But checking to see if it's null is one of the conditions for it actually running in there. So bar temp equals board piece. How did it have an issue with this? Because it can't call the remove. So it called move pieces and that got to here. And then that called it here. And it can't remove because it's nil. But I did a check to see if it was nil first. So, okay. I in range, next space Y. Oh. Yeah, next space dot Y to height. If I is equal to height minus 1, then board piece xi is null. Okay, so let's test this out here. If I press up, this one shouldn't do anything. This one though, check here. So if it's null, it should continue. Did I set the value? I did. Right, I did. Okay. So this shouldn't do anything because in my move all pieces, the up part, I'm going from here. No. So this should check that space first. Space above it. Space dot y height. And is the next space dot y being set correctly? Piece plus direction. Yep, it should be. If I is equal to height minus 1, which it's not. If board piece.xi is not equal to null, which it's not. Not equal to null, so then it should go back. And then now, I would be equal to no. So if it's equal to height minus 1 and it's null, it should be here. So this piece should move there. But it still comes back to that remove. Doesn't make any sense. That's being called from 214, which is in the vector2.up, but it's inside here. No, I still have the break here. Let's print that before it has an issue. Eight 2-0. Okay, so for iron range, oh, I think I did this wrong. This should be the one where it starts at the top and goes to the bottom, so this should be... And then this one should be... Should be a range. These two I think should be reversed then too. Okay, so I'm gonna start with 0, 0, and then go down. Okay, so then And then it's going to try to move that piece up. And then it's going to store the piece, value of the piece, in the next space, and the next value. Is it because I never checked to see if the next value, so let's say if the next value isn't null. So like in here, so I starts next space dot y, okay, and goes until the height. I is equal to height minus 1, and board piece.xi is null, and move the piece there. Board piece.xi is not equal to null. Board piece.xi.value is not equal to value, then move it to 1 before. Spot is full, and the value is the same. It's this removing clear of the other piece. Piece.xi, which it shouldn't even be getting to. Oh, but it told me it's 0, 0. How is this happening if it's null? Because right now it's telling me piece.xi is at 0, 0 here, which isn't null. Okay, so it starts here. This needs to move to there. So if I'm pressing up, I should start with this row, and this should move up first. So it should start here, then move down, which is how it got to this one first. That makes sense. But this didn't find anything that matched its value. I need to change the... No, I called it value. Do I need to change its value? I'm sure this is incredibly interesting for everybody in chat. I could just copy and paste my old code in, but I want to make sure that I'm doing it correctly, so apologies for having to deal with this boringness here. Hopefully the music is at least interesting. But this is what you don't see behind the scenes whenever I make a video. There's usually quite a bit of this going on. So the right was working fine. It's down and up, but I've been working on up here. So go through this again here. So what's the 0, 2, and 0, 2? So it's this one. Oh, it's getting called on it after it's already... It's getting called on it twice. Why is it getting called on it twice? Let's just add a check here then. Whoa. Okay. So that's a game that's easy to win then. So it's going into here when it shouldn't be. So piece.x.i is not equal to null, and board piece.xi.value is not equal to value. So the value I'm storing is this piece.value, and this piece is board.x, board.y, or piece.x, piece.y. Okay. Let's print value here. So the value is 2. Okay, so it went here. Again, I need to store the value of that piece. No. So if the direction is up, then we're iterating from the next base.y to the height. If it's at the end of the board, and that spot is null. So if I is equal to height minus 1, and board piece.xi is equal to null, move the piece there. And then it breaks out. If board piece.xi is not null, and its value is not equal to our value, then we want to move and set board value. If our temp is equal to board piece.x, piece.y, .next value. Oh, that's why. The next space isn't actually... So what's happening is it's reading itself. It's combining them where they stand. Okay, that makes sense now. So then, why is this not... Okay, so the next space is 3, 1, 3, 2, -1, 3, 0. Shouldn't have to do this check, but I'm going to add it anyway. Okay, so what happened there is they both turned into 4s, and they both combined and turned into 8. Good lord. Okay, Is it because I'm starting at height -1 when I need to start at height -2? That means I need to do the same for left as well, though. But no, this should actually start at... Should be range 1, width 1. And then this should go 0, height 1, and then here this should be range be width -2. From a yellow road. Alright, let's check to make sure that the left and right still work. So what happened there? Let's try that again. So 0, 1. Okay, so should start with the top and then work our way down if we're going up. If that space isn't null, right, so starting with 2, if that space isn't null, then I want to try and move this piece, and then this piece is board piece.x, piece.y, and then the next space is the piece plus the direction. And then I want to check to see what the move direction was. The direction is up. Next space dot y for the height. And then if it's height minus 1, there's nothing there. Move and set value and then break. If there is something there and it's not our value, move and set value to oh my gosh, is this what I did? Piece.x I minus 1. Is that what was causing it? Okay, so at least now it's not trying to duplicate the 4, or the one that was at the top there. Let's cut this from here. Let's put that here instead. Okay. So the problem with the moving up is that it's starting at itself instead of starting at the next space. So instead of just doing next space dot y, how about I just do piece dot y plus 1? Is that all I needed to do this whole time? Yep. Awesome. Okay, cool. Now for down, we're gonna go from piece.y minus 1 to -1 by -1. And then we're going to move it to piece.x 0. Good lord, if that was all I needed to do to fix it, I'm so frustrated with myself. So then I want to move it to I piece.x I plus 1. And here piece.x I. And then this should be piece.xi. And then up here, this should be piece.xi. This should be piece.xi. Okay, cool. So let's try this now. All right, sweet. Sweet. Now, good lord, I hope that's all I have to do with that. I'm just collapsing it out of spite. All right, so now we need to generate a new piece. And we'll actually pass in, let's do integer or number of pieces, which is an integer, and then number of pieces. And when we call it at the beginning, we want to generate, and let's actually make a value out of that. We'll do export var number of starting pieces, which is an integer, and then we'll do starting pieces. And then when we call the move function, we'll also, what did I do? Yeah, when we call the move all pieces, after we do each of these, then I want to generate new piece, but 1. All right. Oh, I did the wrong one again. Ah! Okay, cool. So I didn't set my number of pieces to start with. Let's do 2. Okay, few issues here. Call me a fool, put me in my place, put me in my place. Every second and every hour, I miss you, I miss you, I miss you more. Actually, I think this is working like it's supposed to. It's just that the pieces don't have any animation when they're entering. Fingers. Awesome. So now we can start doing some fun stuff. Let's juice this up. Cool. Yeah, let's juice this up. Now, let's make a function for when the pieces are created to animate them in. So I'm going to create another tween node. I know I don't have to make it as another tween, but I'm going to call this my animation tween. Or let's do size tween. And then I'm going to do another one for, I'm going to call this a modulate tween. Cool. So we're going to do a few different things. First, when we're going to create it, we're going to have it kind of pop in. So let's make a function. I'm going to call this pop in. We're going to call that from ready. And this is going to grab the size tween. Oh, sorry. And then from ready, we're going to do, let's actually set our size tween and our modulate tween. Ready var modulate tween. And then for pop in, we're going to grab that size tween, grab the interpolate property from it, and this is going to be self. We're going to do scale. This needs to be in quotations though. And then we're going to use our current scale, and our actually, instead of using our current scale, let's use vector2 teeny tiny scale, and then our final value is going to be vector2 1 1. Let's make this real fast, like 0.2 seconds. Let's use a sign, and then let's ease out, and then let's start the tween. What did I leave out? Nope. Okay, cool. So we're going to pop in, and then when we remove ourselves, we're not going to queue free. Instead, we're going to use the size and the modulate tween to make it look like it's kind of exploding. So we're going to do size tween dot interpolate property self scale, our current scale, to, let's make it like 1.5, and we'll make this pretty fast too, 0.2 seconds. We'll use a sign tween, and we'll ease out. Then let's set the modulate tween, interpolate property, self modulate, and then let's do color, we'll use a sign tween so that color is clear, and then we'll ease out, and then let's start both tweens, and then when the tweens end, that's when we'll remove it from the scene. So and then I only have to do one of these, so I'm going to do the modulate tween since this one is the one that I'm only using once. When it's done, okay, cool. So that should actually juice it up quite a bit. See how much better? Like that's like, it was like 6 lines of code. It's a little fast, but I think it looks pretty good. I'm gonna spend too much time playing this if I don't myself focus down. This game's great. The dude who made this did an excellent job. Cool. All right. So anyway, back to what we're doing. So that looks good. Let's add some scores. So I'm going to make a new Node 2D. Nope, not animated sprite. Make a new Node 2D. I'm going to call this my score manager. And let's add a script to this. And the script is going to be called score manager, which makes sense. I'm going to have a current score equals, so let's just do current score, high score, and then let's do a function here to increase the score. And we'll have an amount to increase. And then we'll change the score. Plus equals amount. And then let's make a signal. Set score, and let's emit that signal. Cool. And then I don't think I need anything in the process, but I'm going to leave it for now. When we do ready, we're going to emit signal set score with the current score, and then I'm also going to default with the current score equal to 0. And now let's add some fonts here. Add a child node. That's just going to be a control node. It's going to keep track of my UI. I'm going to make a child node that is a label. Here. And this is going to be the duplicate that, and this is going to be the high score label. All right, now I need to put in some fonts here. So I think I have them on my desktop in channel assets, fonts. So in with my 2048 assets here, I'm just going to bring in some Kenny fonts. I'm going to do blocks. Come in like it's supposed to. Yeah, there it is. Cool. Now, create a new resource. Dynamic font with 32. A little bit of an outline. Dark gray. Font is going to be loaded from my assets, Kenny blocks. I'm going to save this resource into my assets. I'm going to call this my... Hey, come on. I'm going to call this score font. Now, if I grab this one for my custom font, I can load that now here. And I can do the same thing with the other one, load the same font. Now I want that font to be darker. So That's something I have to change in the font itself. It probably is. The outline bigger then. Let's go with 6. And let's make the font bigger too. Cool. And with these labels, make them both centered. All right. Now, let's let the UI control those. And this is just gonna be UI, that's fine. Let's make a reference to the 2 labels. Okay. And then this is gonna take in a function to set that current score, and we'll do high score in just a minute. So we're gonna do this is going to need a number. Needs to be an integer, and then we want to do cast it to a string. Cool. This is going to receive a signal from the score manager. And the signal is going to change the score. Cool. Now, the grid is going to emit some signals about changing the score. And it's going to emit that signal when the pieces collide. Which means I have to open up my dreaded move piece function. All right, so I want to emit signal, change score, and then I want to send out the previous value. So I'm just going to send out value. And then I'm just going to add that at each of these. Okay, so let's try this out. Oh, I didn't connect the... Wait, what's wrong? And then I want to connect the change score to the score manager. And then this is going to be white knuckles. Do do do. Did you get what you need? That after all, white knuckles. Maybe it's not so bad. You guys have been super quiet, so unfortunately that means you need to suffer through my singing. All right, let's try and mess this up as much as I can. Sweet. Now when there's no more room, I want to trigger a game over panel and then enter a state where I can no longer control stuff. So in the grid, in here, I'm going to only allow anything to happen if we're in the control state. So I'm just going to use a Boolean value for this. So I'm going to do var can control equals true. And then in the move all pieces, if can control. And then everything else, I'm just not going to allow it to happen if we can't control. This all gets indented. And then when we check to see if there's a blank space, if there's no blank spaces, instead of printing no more room, we're going to set can control to false. And then we also want to emit a signal that game is over. And then that's it for the grid. The grid's done its job. So it comes in at a svelte, what, 267 lines. That's not that, well, yeah, 267 lines. So we want to emit a signal game over. And that game over signal is going to go to the UI. But first thing I want to do with my UI, I actually want my UI like here above the score manager, but below the grid. First thing I'm going to do with the UI is I'm going to add a child node of a, I think it's a panel that I want. And I didn't pre-make this, so I'm going to have to just like take it in here. And I want these anchors here. So why is what? I'm just gonna do 0, 0, 1, 1. What? What are you doing? All right, so my margin from the left, I'm going to say is 64 pixels. No, let's go less. Let's go 48 pixels. From the top, 447, let's do 512. From the right, it's 576 minus 48 would be, see, 528. Nope. There we go. That is right. 528, and then my bottom I'm going to put at 964. Cool. So here's this little game over panel. I didn't actually make some art for it, so this is just going to have to work. And then as a child, this is going to have a label. It's going to go here. Leave the anchors at 0. The margin left, I'm going to do 120. Top, I'm going to do 48. Right, let's do 360. Bottom, we'll do 200. And then this is just going to say game over. Custom fonts. We're going to grab that font that I already saved. I want this to be 2 lines. So game over. Center aligned. Cool. Doesn't look that bad. So let's do nice, that looks pretty good. And then we're also going to, let's call this game over label. We're also going to add a button here. Button is going to be restart. fonts, we're just going to use that same font that I've been using. Cool. A bit bigger. Margin, let's go 90, 270. Nice. Now this game over panel is going to be hidden by default. And we're going to send a game over signal to the UI. That's going to do the game over panel.show. Let's make that an onReady variable. Okay. And then that restart button, I want to send the pressed signal to the UI. This is just gonna reset this scene. I think it's get tree. Reload current scene. Sweet. By default, this is going to be hidden, but just to make sure in the ready function, I'm going to hide it. Get rid of the ready function. Oop. There we go. All right, so let's try out our game here. I'm just going to try to lose as fast as I can. Sweet. Bam! Nice. We don't have a high score yet, but we also don't have... That's fun. So one thing that happened there, I don't know if you noticed, but I had a piece that moved kind of diagonally, and that's because I'm not limiting the inputs. So I'm going to limit the inputs here as well. In the grid script, I'm only going, I already have a way to only control the inputs if we're in a certain space. So can control is true. When we're moving, I want to set can control to be false and then set it to true again after we're done moving. So for that, and then in here, if can control equals false, and at the end, control equals true. That's kind of a messy way to do it, but it should help. Nope, I can still move diagonally. So I could put in a timer. So I could do, let's do get tree dot, forget, it's like make timer or something like that, or I always forget how to do this, and I've written it down like 15 times. Godot, the wait timer in code. It's like create timer or something like that. So here's one way to do it. There's an easier way. There's like really like a smaller one. I mean, those are fine and they'll all work. There we go. It's yield get tree create timer 1.0. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. The scene tree timer. So, wait, I don't want this one. This one. So after we do that, I want to yield get tree create timer and then just, yeah, 1.0 is fine. It's probably too much and it's a magic number, but oh, haha. And then I want to do can equals true. Yeah, 1 second is way too long. Let's do this right. Let's make that an actual variable. So we'll do export var, we'll call this control wait time, which is an integer, and then we'll wait the control wait time. All right, and if I set that back here in my grid, 0.4, oh, because I set it as an integer, good lord, needs to be a float. So back here, 0.4, save. Okay, there we go. That's fixed. Cool. Now, let's add the touch controls. So we need to have, I don't want to have the touch controls work above a certain point in the screen. So I'm going to create a variable for that point where they can work. So let's do export var, we'll call this touch y limit. It's an integer. We're going to create a variable for the first touch. Vector 2. And var touch release position vector 2. All right, so now project settings, we'll call this touch. This is going to be mouse button, left button, and then in the input settings you have to set it so that it emulates a mouse with a touch. Yeah, emulate touch from mouse and emulate mouse from touch. And let's actually do one more thing. Make this not from device 0, but let's make it all devices. Feel afraid. So, oh no, and we'll also need like a swipe limit, which is going to be a float. If input.get is action, just press not get. Touch. Then I want to set the first touch position is equal to get global mouse position. If input.is action just released release equals get global mouse position. All right, cool. So now let's create another variable just to make sure that it doesn't get in this weird on-off switch. Let's call this swiping, which is a Boolean. Let's actually set it. And then this is gonna tell being equals true, swiping equals false. Swiping. All right, cool. Now when we release, we want to calculate direction. So then this is going to calculate direction. And then when we calculate the direction, we want to check to see if it's greater than the swipe limit. So if, let's actually make that vector. So we're going to call this var swipe vector equals touch release position minus first touch position. If swipe, is it swipe vector dot magnitude? So what can I get? I can get cross distance dot floor length is greater than swipe limit. Okay, so if the swipe is long enough to register as a swipe and not just a touch, then what we want to do is swipe vector dot, what does angle do? Have I been doing all of this trigonometry when there's an angle function built in? What's in the, okay. Vector2. Vector2.angle returns the vector's angle in radians. Holy cow! Equivalent to atan 2, and I've been doing all of this trigonometry. That's really annoying. It returns it in radians though. So, touch control. So I want to do rad to degrees. And then if temp is greater than -5 and less than or equal to 45. Right, then I want to emit signal move vector2 dot right. Oh, temp. Else if temp is greater than 45 and temp is less than or equal to 135. It's signal move vector2 dot up. Else if temp is greater than 135 and temp is less than 225. signal move. Vector 2 dot left. Else. Emit signal. This is probably sloppy. Move. 2 dot down. About us anyway. I don't care about that. And then now I need to make sure that this signal is connected properly. Yep, it is. Okay, so our angles are reversed. So this should be down. This should be up. And you know you're mine. Ooh-wee, ooh, I look just like Buddy Holly. Wait, left is going up? Let's just print temp here. Oh geez, okay, that's why. Why does it think that's 90? Because it's upside down, because... okay. That's why. Okay, and I need to set my swipe limit too. Let's say it's 50 pixels. And then back in here, let's reverse these. So first touch position minus touch release position. Okay, so wait. All right, let's change these again. This is gonna be up. This is gonna be down. Okay. So now, if I swipe right, it goes left. If I swipe up, it goes up. Down, it goes down. Left, it goes right. So now left and right are reversed. Right, left. The hidden cameras on the casino floor. Down, up, down, up. So weird. So I think what might be happening is it might be remembering some of the values. So let's set both of those to be vector 2.0 first. Let's set it up here even. And then after we do this, I'm going to reset them both to vector 2.0. So after we calculate the direction and emit the signal, we're going to set them both back to. So first touch position equals 2.0, touch release position equals 0. And then I only want to, I never put in my swipe limit. So this should be an export var swipe limit. So touch controls, swipe limit, Let's say 200. And then script. If get global mouse position dot y is greater than. Oh, it's not swipe limit I want, it's the touch y limit. Then I'm going to do all of this. Okay, and then this needs to be 50, and this should be 200. All right. It's emitting multiple signals. It's that else, I think that's the issue. And then this should be less than or equal to. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, there we go. That's as far as I'm going to get today. It's time for me to go get some lunch. All right. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will post the code for this on my website, which I have a link to in the description down below. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. I hope everybody has a great day. Okay, hey, I just saw all of the chat that I didn't see. The last chat message I got was like 2 hours ago, so I haven't been looking at the chat. So I am so sorry. Let's go back here for a bit. Okay, so Turtle Games, thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. Okay, so holy cow, I missed a lot of chat. Seriously, the last one I got was when AnyKey said height and length are ones I misspell. Calculator. Glad to see I'm not. Where can you find OpenGL 2.1? Ralph, I don't know. It's a good question. Salman Khan says, how far did we get? Was away for a bit. See, piece is a vector, hence message retracted. Okay. And a null check or breakpoint in the remove and clear function, in my opinion. Add. Yeah, I think that was back when I was like, yeah. That was back when I was struggling with how things were working. Bongo Cat says hi. Hello, Bongo Cat. Adam Said says, hi, Mr. Taft. Hi. Man, I am so sorry I missed all these chats. Adam says he has a question about the Unity engine. I wonder what your question is. Bongo Cat says, Stever, is that you? Love your videos, bro. Thank you. Why are you using Godot engine over Unity? I like them both. I just wanted to make something in Godot today because I wanted to test out some changes for the Godot Match 3. Andrew asks, will I continue with the Zelda-like series? I am. It's just those videos take a long time now with where we're at. Cyborg Potatoes says yes. Went for lunch break. Going to have to rewind and watch quite a bit. Salman Khan, yeah, sorry. You can use one tween to make loot interpretations. You don't need size tween and modulate tween. Okay, thank you, Bitso. I just thought that if one tween was running on one property, that tween can't also run on a separate property at the same time. Yale says Godot ... Call my dad. I'm on ready. Hello, somebody are sleeping. This is a dictionary. The COVID-19 effect. What is the difference about Node and Node 2D? Node 2D has a position and a modulate property. Node does not. Any key says looking good. DevJu Learning says, wow, well, my boss, I like you. How many variables I couldn't sleep today? That wasn't that many variables, was it? Do you have documentation for the Zelda project? Not yet, I don't know. And the complete instruction for Cave Brothers isn't finished yet. So. Gosh, I'm so sorry I missed all those chats and everything, guys. Any last minute questions before I say goodbye? Yoda decided to come and chat if you didn't see her. Here's Yoda. Okay, well, sorry guys. That first of all, that took way longer than I thought it would. Second of all, I missed a ridiculous amount of chats. I'm sorry about that. So, yeah. Hope everybody has a great day. Sorry again for anybody I missed. And thank you, Michael. And I will see you guys later.